Thanks for tuning in to Retiring Well. We've got a great show lined up for you today. We're going to be talking about how the Fed hike affects your retirement, along with a 1,000-piece puzzle, that could be challenging, along with estate taxes, and lastly, retiring in northern Michigan. So all this and much more coming up right now on Retiring Well.
Retiring Well, brought to you by Centennial Wealth Advisory, financial advisors, specializing in retirement planning and serving all of northern Michigan. Retiring Well, helping you plan for a successful and comfortable retirement. Retiring Well, plan to retire well.
Here in 2022, we've seen the Fed raise rates several times now, and so I want to talk to you specifically about what that rate hike, how it impacts your retirement. So we've been continuously seeing this interest rate hike in the goal of combating inflation, but this has posed many problems within the stock market and especially here in the bond market as well for this year. Meanwhile, inflation, as I'm sure you're feeling just as much, has impacted you when you go to the grocery store or to the gas pump, and a whole lot of other areas that people are really feeling the pain with the inflation. So what is it that ultimately you should do? So first thing, maybe check your spending habits. When you go through and we talk about a budget, and a lot of times people aren't really comfortable with having a budget and following it, but it's one that can be very vital. But maybe it's going back through and looking at where you're spending money. Are there certain unnecessary expenses? A good exercise might be going through your most recent 2, 3, 4, 5 different past credit card monthly bills and seeing where you're spending that money, and see if there's certain areas when you look at that definitely stand out to you as, well, maybe we didn't necessarily need that XYZ, whatever that might be. So the second area, maybe revisit your investments and savings. Do you necessarily have an income plan where you're regularly taking income from your investments? Look at that. Is it something that you have a plan for and it's consistent? What about your risk tolerance? Have you experienced greater volatility within your stocks and bonds than you feel comfortable with? Well, that might be a time for you to revisit that, or talk to your financial advisor to talk about, are there different accounts available that you'd feel more comfortable with? Number 3 might be looking at paying off debts during a time like this. As interest rates are rising, you might be experiencing, if you have a variable rate on your credit cards or on your mortgage, then you're going to see those rates increase. So how can you either look at paying those bills off or potentially refinancing those to get into a better position? The good news with the rising interest rates, though, is savings accounts should be earning more. So you may want to be shopping around to try and get a little better interest on your savings. Number 4, are there other income options? Should you begin a pension or potentially an annuity income stream? Maybe it's working part-time. This other income may allow you to generate that additional income and not have to touch some of those investments that maybe haven't seen as good a results as you'd like to during this time. So if you're ultimately, we feel like if you're failing to plan, and is planning to fail. So let us help you plan to retire well.
It's certainly been a very interesting year here in 2022 with the market and everything that the Fed is doing with increasing those rates. It's playing a large role in a lot of people's retirement. And you know, when the Fed does increase those rates, a lot of things change. And so what we found here in Gaylord, one time we had a client come in and, you know, their goal was, okay, I want to retire, but what should I do first? Okay, so when we sit down with you, we're going to go over all the different investment tools that you have already in place, but we're also going to talk about income and expenses, okay? And so with this client, one of their expenses happened to be a substantial credit card balance that they had. And you know, with these increased rates that the Feds are doing, that also increases your interest rate that you're paying on your credit cards, okay? And so with this client, that rate ended up being well above the 20% mark for him. So in this case, because of what's going on with everything in the world, world, made the most sense for him to start tackling that credit card debt by taking distributions from his IRA. But we were going to do that over a couple years to help minimize the interest that he's paying on those credit cards. So that's just one way that the Fed's increase in rates have affected some people's retirement.
Yeah, that's a great story there, Nick. You know, I had a client out of Clare. They came and joined us in 2019, and we mapped out that holistic approach from income planning to investment planning, tax planning, healthcare planning, and estate planning. And they were carrying a $50,000 HELOC or home equity line of credit. Well, the interest rate was about 3%, and they were paying for it, you know, over time, and to them that was, you know, cheap money. Well, with these latest rate hikes, that current HELOC for them right now is over 6%, and so we met, and they said, you know, I'd really like to take care of this, and I said, okay, well, let's go to your tax plan. Let's take let's continue that conversation, and we were able to, you know, make a plan over the next 2 years to pay off that home equity line, stay in the 12% bracket, and we just diverted a little bit of the Roth conversions to paying this off. And because there was a plan, we could still be proactive even when we had events that we were not ready. So, hey, stay tuned. Coming up next, we're going to be talking about the 1,000-piece puzzle and estate taxes. You don't want to miss it.
Do what our name implies. We help veterans that are having trouble. Could be with home expenses, could be with problems from health or issues that the VA just can't cover or can't cover quick enough. We pride ourselves in being a 24-hour response team. We have a 10-member board, all volunteers. 95% of the money that we bring in goes to veterans.
It's a great honor for all of us here in the Centennial Wealth Advisory team to be part of this event, because it's a small way we can give back to these veterans that have helped our lives in so many ways in going to battle for us and fight for our freedom. We're so appreciative of that, and then we're so excited to enjoy this day with many veterans out here, and so that this Veterans in Crisis organization can give back to the local Northern Michigan community in so many meaningful ways.
We have very little overhead. We don't have any offices. We just we work from our bootstraps, so to speak. But we do this with support of the community and corporate sponsors, not the least of which is Centennial Wealth, and we've been blessed to have them on board for several years now, and it's just a tremendous partnership that we've been able to have with them. We can't tell you enough how much we appreciate their support and the support of the community.
We're excited to be here at Lock and Heath today with for the 5th annual Veterans in Crisis golf outing. Centennial Wealth Advisory has been a proud sponsor for several years now, and we're just grateful for those serving all of Northern Michigan and those in the military and those that have served before us. We're grateful for that and all that Veterans in Crisis does for the community.
I'm one of the founding members of Veterans in Crisis. It is an entirely volunteer organization, but I wanted to get involved in something worthwhile, and I can't think of anything more worthwhile than serving our veterans.
I love hearing the Coast Guard helicopter in the background here. We're out here supporting our veterans with Veterans in Crisis Memorial Golf Outing. It's a fundraiser to help those that have served before us. And here at Centennial, we love to have that servant heart that so many of those brave soldiers have had before us. They led the way, and we love to follow that.
You know, oftentimes you're out and about in public or maybe at a social gathering or event, somebody will come across and ask you, you know, what do you do for a living? What it keeps you busy, right? And everybody has their own way they're going to answer that question. They're an architect, they're a builder, whatever that may be. Well, over the years, when folks have asked me that, you know, I'm proud to say, you know, I work at Centennial Wealth Advisory and one of the senior partners here, and I'm a financial advisor and help people plan to retire and kind of go on about that. And I really enjoy what I do and I'm passionate about it. But after a while too, you know, I realized that there's more to it than that. And most people, when they're asking that question, I believe are generally interested, but after a while, you can only speak so long and their eyes are gonna glaze over, right? So, you know, I started thinking about, you know, what exactly do we do here? What is this like? And so I think over the years, and as I've been working with my kids and building puzzles and all this sort of stuff, you know, I started to think, you know, a lot of what we do is like putting together a 1,000-piece puzzle, but not having the picture on the box to do it. You know, think of retirement planning. You know, every individual out there and you sitting there watching this, I'm sure you have these retirement dreams and aspirations that you want to do or create during your retirement, of this vivid picture of what that looks like. But how is that all going to come in play? How are these things going to do? So us at Centennial Wealth Advisory, our job is to help you put together that puzzle, but we always don't have that map to do that, right? That picture of what this puzzle is going to look like. We don't know. We don't know how long you're going to live. We don't know some of these variables that are going to be out here. So we start picking up these pieces and putting them together. You know, what are these pieces? Think of these pieces about the different plans that you should have in retirement planning: an income plan, an investment plan, tax plan, estate, healthcare, long-term care, you know, legacy. Some of those are the core ones that you hear us talk about a lot. But what about some of these other pieces out there that you know, think of those ones I just said, maybe that's that border, right, that we're building that puzzle. But what about some of these smaller puzzles, you know, when you're building those puzzles and maybe it's not clear where that piece is going to go? You know, what about paying off debt? What about helping children or grandchildren? A second home, buying a new car, major home improvements, you know, health, surviving spouse. Some of these things that maybe aren't at the forefront of your mind, but they're going to come along. Remember, as we always talk about, retirement could be 20, 30, 40 years of your life. These different pieces of this puzzle all need to have their home and their specific place for that. So what do? We help you put together that 1,000-piece retirement puzzle that you've been dreaming about and you can see. Now it's our job to come alongside you and help you place all those pieces of your puzzle so you can live and plan to retire well.
What can Retirement Analyzer do for you? Retirement Analyzer is a software tool that can help you prepare today for your financial future. You've worked hard to save for your retirement, but as you near your retirement, you may have concerns. Have I positioned my retirement savings wisely? Have I saved enough for retirement, and will my savings last throughout my lifetime? What impact could inflation have on my future expenses? What if I suffer a long-term illness? Will I have enough money to cover my medical care expenses and still be able to meet my other financial obligations? Could changes in the income tax rates disrupt my retirement strategy? There's no need to be in the dark as you prepare for your retirement. Retirement Analyzer can help you find answers to all these questions and more. The first step is providing us with information on your financial assets, the type and current value of those assets, as well as your sources of income. Then, we work with you to identify your expected expenses in retirement. This will include a discussion of the lifestyle you envision in retirement: travel, a summer residence, whatever you dream your retirement will be. We'll input the information you provide us into the Retirement Analyzer, and in a very short time we'll have reports that show us the percentage of assets currently in high-risk vehicles as well as the percent in lower-risk products. Retirement Analyzer enables us to project your income from year to year in your retirement and see how long your retirement savings may last. As we change the conditions of the report, delaying your retirement date, including costs for long-term care, adjusting the expected tax rate, or adjusting your retirement strategies, we can see how changes in these variables may impact your income in retirement and the longevity of your retirement savings. Let the Retirement Analyzer help you test drive your retirement strategy today, because the time to discover the bumps in the road is not once your trip through retirement has begun. Contact our office today to schedule an appointment for your Retirement Analyzer review.
let's talk about estate taxes, and specifically the estate tax exemption. So this is money that you can pass on to your heirs without having to pay estate taxes. So the Taxpayer Relief Act of 1997, the level for this estate tax exemption was $600,000, and then it increased to about $1 million in 2002, $2 million in 2008, and then now in 2022, that's just over $12 million per individual. So if there's a married couple, now you're talking about $24 million plus that could be passed and not have to pay estate taxes. So there's not as many heirs paying estate taxes today on their inheritance as maybe there were 20, 30 years ago. There's still taxes, though, on certain monies that are inherited that it's important to be aware of. So if you have traditional IRAs or 401ks, then that money is left taxable to your beneficiary, a child, grandchild, etc. And they've changed some of the rules of how you used to be able to then stretch that money over their lifetime, but now they've limited you to a 10-year window, and there's certain rules that you have to follow, required distributions, etc., during that 10-year time frame. But again, when a child or grandchild's receiving an IRA, they're going to be paying taxes on that money. Another scenario would be a deferred, non-qualified annuity. So this is after-tax money that you put into an annuity, and that money is then grown over time, and you pass away and leave that money. Then the interest earnings that you didn't pay tax on during your lifetime is going to be left as taxable to children and grandchildren. Estate planning, it was typically prior to 2011 that attorneys were maybe drawing up what they call like AB trusts, where a married couple might have two different trusts involved. Today we see more common with the attorneys that they're drawing more of like a family trust, where a married couple would have that together in one trust. Again, we're not estate planning attorneys. You'd want to talk to the legal professionals about how to set up the appropriate trust, but it is one that's changed over the past 15 plus years. Now, there are tax-free assets that you might inherit, so that could be, examples of that would be life insurance or Roth IRAs, different savings accounts, maybe the owner's primary residence. There also could be different stocks that had a step up in basis upon their passing, so there are different assets that you could inherit and not have to pay any taxes. So there's a lot of different areas when it comes to estate planning and planning, so that's where we encourage you to give us a call and sit down for a no cost, no obligation second opinion.
Hey, what a great couple segments there. Specifically the 1,000-piece puzzle. I connect with that quite a bit because in my teaching days, I would have these students come in, and I had no idea what their background was, what their life experiences had been, and so it was a big puzzle. And so what I would challenge myself with is trying to figure out what are areas that I can grow or stretch them, that I can challenge them, that I can get them to try to learn how to be a better version of themselves. And so that was always a challenge that took a lot of time. I had to win the right to be heard in order to be able to push and pull and challenge and try to get that growth that I knew was inside of them. And so, here at Centennial Wealth, we don't have as much time. It's a little bit harder to win that right to be heard, but the challenge is the same. When we meet with you, we're trying to figure out, okay, what are your life experiences? What is your situation? How might we be able to add value to that, to stretch or to grow or to give some peace because there's some planning? And so, as Art was saying, we don't know what the end picture looks like on the box, but the challenge is what wakes us up each and every morning. Yeah, so, and Nick, I know you have some high net worth client that had a lot of puzzle pieces.
Yeah. So, when you have that higher net worth, there is, like Jack was saying, there's a lot more pieces of the puzzle that we need to make sure that we are aware of, okay? And here at Centennial Wealth, that's our job, is to make sure that we're not missing a piece. I know when I'm doing puzzles with my kids, I mean, I've got a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 6-year-old, and also a 2-year-old, but she's not into puzzles quite yet. But if we get all the way to the end of a puzzle and we're missing a piece, we're in trouble, right? And that's the same with like these high net worth clients. We want to make sure that all the pieces of the puzzle are taken care of. So that comes to, I mean, we're talking health insurance planning, estate planning, tax planning, income planning, Social Security planning. All those different aspects of retirement play a huge role, especially when you have that higher net worth. But for everybody in retirement, you want to make sure that we're looking at every single piece of the puzzle and putting them all together to help you plan to retire well. Coming up next, we're going to be talking about retiring in Northern Michigan.
Living life isn't always easy. It puts up challenges and obstacles you'll have to overcome. There are responsibilities. You put in effort to provide and take care of your family, to save and invest, to balance work and life. Planning is the first step to succeeding. Plan to retire well. If you like watching Retiring Well, make sure to go to youtube.com/retiringwell and click the subscribe button to never miss any of our TV shows and other informative videos.
Retiring in Northern Michigan. For some of you, you were born and raised here and that you would call no other place home. And for others, maybe you just moved here last week and you're getting ready on that retirement journey. It's interesting, you know, as somebody that was born and raised in Traverse City, you know, and my family has roots dating back all the way to the 1800s here in Traverse City, you know, it's amazing to see the transformation this Northern Michigan communities have undergone over the years and the growth they've had. You know, with Centennial Wealth being headquartered right here in Traverse City and having offices in Gaylord, Cadillac, and Petoskey, and serving all of Northern Michigan and beyond, you know, we feel blessed to be here. But why are people retiring here, and why are people moving here? It's interesting, just recently, this August in 2022, Realtor.com voted Traverse City as the #1 most affordable and best place to retire. And you know, that's not the first time Traverse City has made some list of best of something, right? So we're getting some national spotlights over the years of different reasons to come visit and live and retire here. We've seen this tremendous boom of population in Traverse City and the surrounding areas and across most of Northern Michigan, honestly. And what does that do from? Well, it was interesting, the article that Realtor.com had when they voted Traverse City #1, they cited near perfect weather from June through late October. And for most of you probably would agree with that. Sure, there's some chilly nights along the way. There are some rainstorms that come along at maybe inopportune times. But yeah, when you think, and I'd even probably argue a lot of times May is beautiful too. So, you know, you look at a big part of that. Winters can be tough, you know, and there's a lot of different things to do in the winter. So some people enjoy winter just as much or more than others, you know, ice fishing and snowmobiling and skiing and sledding and snowshoeing and all this sort of different stuff that's out there. And obviously, you know, many folks choose to winter away and they go somewhere else. So retiring in Northern Michigan has a lot of its perks, right? And for those of you that have lived here all these years and you know all these beautiful areas, one of our clients said it so well years ago to me, and this stuck with me more than anything. She said, you know, Art, in my retirement years, I see 3 phases. I see I'm going to have my go-go years, my slow-go years, and my no-go years. And that really vividly stuck with me because she was insinuating that, hey, potentially early on when my health is good, I'm going to want to be very active and I'm going to do all these things. And sometimes financially that means maybe you're going to spend a little bit more money. Then eventually see that she would age a little bit and probably slow down. Still doing a lot of things, but maybe not able to do everything that she once did. And then eventually getting to those no-go years where maybe your health is waning and you're just enjoying life and maybe taking it easy and just not doing as much. You should have a financial plan, no matter where you live, that matches up with what you plan to do in retirement. If you don't feel that you have this, we'd love to sit down and walk side by side with you to help you through that. Give us a call at the number on the screen and so we can help you plan to retire well.
What a great segment there on the place that we get to call home. It's so beautiful, and it's an awesome area that we get to live in here. And when I first started this job many years ago, what I was kind of shocked to find out is that I'd be meeting with all these different people, and for a lot of them, they have enough money to have both a summer home down somewhere warm and then also another place up here. But for a lot of these people, they just have one house, and because they love it up here in northern Michigan so much. There's so much to do, especially in the Gaylord area, for example. I mean, summertime, we're home to so many different golf courses. We're the golf mecca of northern Michigan. And then in the wintertime, there's like 4 or 5 different ski resorts within a good hour of the Gaylord location. So it's really neat that we live in such an area that people don't want to leave. They don't need to winter somewhere else. We have so many different activities year-round in our area.
Yeah, it reminds me of even my own situation. In 2006, my wife and I moved up, started teaching in McBain schools, and bought a house on the lake there in Lake City. And now that we have kids, there's never a dull moment, because if it is water skiing or tubing or fishing in the summer, it transitions to fall color tours, going to the pumpkin patch, all those fun activities, then to skiing on the lake or snowmobiling or ice fishing or snowball fights or ice skating. The list goes on and on and on. But one of the things that I think we get to do the best is we get to help people retire fearlessly. When my kids come to me and they say, "Dad, I'm scared," I always say, you know what, that's okay. It is okay to be scared. It's what you do about being scared. And so what I find is people, they will carry this fear, whether it's lack of planning or lack of understanding their financial facts and what they should do about it, and that weighs on them, and it changes how their retirement looks, here in this beautiful state of Michigan. So if you're sitting there and you have worry and you just want to figure something out, please feel free to give us a call. We love to teach. There's never going to be any pressure. We want to help you retire fearlessly. So that starts with the plan. So thank you so much for watching and for tuning in this week. Come back next week, same time, same channel. Have a great week.